It's Friday before the Dubai World Cup, and the tracks have been beautifully harrowed for the last time this morning. The horses have done their work, and we were at the round track where we encountered John GOSDEN, who was working Lord North, who was victorious in the Dubai Turf last year, and in fact the year before. Even though he dead heated with Pantalassa last year, and he had respiratory problems, we've now got a chance to find out how his preparation has gone and how he's expected to run for his third onslaught on the Dubai Turf, arguably the toughest race of the evening. It's really nice to be close to the action in respect of timing. Friday, you've seen everything unfold from the time that he got here. What was your impression of the way he'd travelled and the way he settled in?
Well, yeah, he's done well overall. He's he's an old professional now. He's 7-year-old gelding, so they probably know more about the game than we do. But he's travelled down well, fine, settled in. Very pleased with him. I think the only main comment I had, normally the turf course here has a little more give in it. We would call it good ground. This year it's riding firm, which wouldn't be entirely to his liking.
Well, you don't have Pantalassa to contend with, but you do have a very strong field, as it always is. And I guess to a large extent you don't really worry about your opposition, but how well your horse is.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing. I mean, we know very well there's about 6 horses in there could win it on the form. So it's a very solid race. I mean, it's a proper Group 1, but you get you need a rubber to green. We're drawn down a tree. You need to get the splits, all that kind of thing. But whether he quite lets himself flow on the faster ground would probably be my only concern. Otherwise, I think anyone who beat him would get a pretty tough race to beat him, because he's in good order and probably a little sharper than last year, if anything. But as you say, the other horse that dead heated was last year, he's now got the 15 draw in the World Cup, so that'll be interesting to see how he handles that one.
Yeah, I guess they won't really have too much option but to use him, because he doesn't have any other style of racing, but that's another story. Douglas White says to me that he would need a lot softer ground for his Hong Kong entrant in the Shima Classic, and he says he knows exactly where the taps are to leave the sprinklers on all night.
Well, I think that's good, and if he's had a word with the groundsman there and just given him what we call an attitude adjust, you never know, we might get a good old paddy field out there, swamp. But I think the problem is, obviously they had these strong Shamal, these winds here, and it's just sucked all the moisture out, and anything they water has gone elsewhere, so it's certainly running a lot quicker. But that looks a great race, and the Shima Classic looks a superb race.
We often use the expression, you didn't come here for a change of environment, because at the end of the day, even though it's really cold in Britain, and even though it's really warm and there's lots of nice things to do in Dubai, it's a combination of the money, the hospitality. What do you put it down to?
Well, obviously, from when it started at Nad El Shiba, the plan of having it started with an international jockeys, then international racing, and they've always been here at the forefront of it. And Dubai is very well geographically placed to bring horses from east and from the west. So there aren't many meetings that will bring so many from Japan, from America, from Europe, and it's absolutely everywhere. And I suppose we could do with a few more Australian, but it certainly is a great location. It's always been a fantastic meeting, but very much an easy place to get to with Emirates Airlines. And if any of us are flying to Australia, we usually come through here anyhow.
Having had a very brief look at the Dubai World Cup itself, there are the horses that are tried and tested, battled, hardened contenders, and then you get the horses that have come through. A horse like Algiers, who's just won the 2 legs of the Maktoum Challenge. He's in a rich vein of form, but he hasn't delivered that 125 kind of performance, but he could be.
I think it's interesting. I think it's a very open race, the World Cup, particularly where the draw came up. So you have 2 of the favourites put right out on the outside. That compromises their chances. And you hit that first bend pretty quickly. But I mean, in fact, 3 of the top fancies are 13, 14, 15 or whatever is right out there. So I think to that extent, that's opened the race up. I could see you could get a surprise result. It's one of those days that you need luck at the draw, but you also got to handle the track here. But I see that race that I wouldn't want to be forced to have a bet in it. Whereas I think you look at the turf races, you pretty well can narrow in, and particularly since you've got the champion Japanese horse here in the Shima Classic, we're always looking forward to seeing him. But horses have won Japan Cups and everything else, and the standard of their racing, and they've been for years buying the best fillies they can anywhere taking top bloodlines in there, where there's Deep Impact, Sunday Silence, that whole line. So to that extent, they are a real world power now.
Kickback. It's something that nobody wants to subject their horses to, but it's a reality of dirt racing. When you go to America, I'm sure you would far rather race in the grass than in the dirt. But if you've got a horse that's got the propensity and the ability, you take your chances.
Yeah, you do. But I think with the dirt tracks, sand tracks, you know, or torpedo, or whether it's polytrack, synthetic tracks, they all vary and horses prefer them. But as you say, the kickback is a big factor. You can take a horse that can work brilliantly on it on their own, but then when they get in the race in the kickback, they're not used to it. Immediately they lose their action and their breathing goes and the rhythm of their breathing. And that's something, you know, you have to, you know, when they're young and brought up with it, the horses. You notice a lot of the jockeys I saw in the films, they've got screens for themselves, but the horses don't. And to that extent, it's tough for a horse unless they're conditioned to it. And there's no doubt that that is a key factor. But, you know, I think it's something I found a lot of turf horses, they can't transfer their form. They can handle the surface, but they can't handle the kickback. But also the dirt horse is a different creature. Heavier shoulder, shorter cannon, shorter pastern, different style, quicker stride. They are a slightly different creature.